All right, we're back. Month number 2, show number 2. The closing table is here, and there he is, Dan the Man,
We
with the realtor plan.
Yes, sir. We were having a discussion before we went live, so sorry we're a minute late. I think we could have stayed longer if we didn't look at the clock there. Reminiscing
All
about
of a
some
sudden,
old days.
Dan's like, well, we got to go live. What are you doing?
Yeah,
We got to go
I'm
live.
crazy for a minute. I'm nuts. I'm always crazy on time. We want to welcome everybody back and thank you for listening to the first episode. Happy New Year to you, Bay. Happy New Year to everybody out there. We do appreciate you listening. We're back for a second episode. Again, as Bay said, we're brought to you by Next Home Brandywine, a franchise that I own in the Next Home franchise company based out of California. Again, if you haven't looked us up or you want to know more about us, go to nexthome.com or nexthomebrandywine.com. That is my franchise office. We'll do some little bit of introductions here and some real estate talk, Bay, and then we're going to bring on a guest here, which we're excited about. At least I am. He's a childhood friend of mine, Mike Kehner. The three of us cross over in several different areas, and Mike was, grew up in Fallcroft, and he ended up getting into one of the cult historic wrestling franchises in ECW as an official, and it's a great story. And part of why we're doing this is to humanize things a little bit, and our company is what our tagline is: humans over houses, and we want to personalize our business. If you're selling your house tells a story. We want to present that as such when we're involved in a transaction with you. We want to make it more personal. There is a place in this business for technology, very much so. It makes it easier, but real estate is personal. Real estate's about emotion, and we want to make sure that we don't lose that or let that go away from the real estate business. That's what makes it fun. That's what makes it more personal, and for us, we're invested in our clients on more than just a transactional business level. So that's why we'll go into some talk with Mike about the old neighborhood and ECW, and kind of tie it into who we are, where we came from, and kind of asking you for your business. If you're looking to buy or sell, give myself and my team a call. Again, nexthomebrandywine.com. Couple of things. Next Home was just ranked number 1 for the second year in a row by the Franchise Business Review for both franchise ownership and agent satisfaction. So that absolutely tells you this is a well-respected publication, and it actually tells you what we are all about as a franchise, and that we care about our people, and that in turn hopefully projects to our clients as well. One more bit of news here. Make sure I get this right. I was awarded the Premier Sales Award for Next Home this year. It's a huge honor for me. Thank you. I'm really excited about it. It's the first year for me hitting this level, over $6 million in personal sales.
Wow.
What does it say? It says that you're trusting me to handle your real estate transaction. And there's 36,000 other real estate agents out there. And it stops right there. It means a lot to me that you would entrust me to handle your real estate transaction. And by doing over 20 units and $6 million in sales, it shows that we're starting to gain recognition and achievements along the way. And when you get recognized for stuff, it is important accomplishment. And we appreciate everybody that used us last year, everybody that supported us from day one, that helped us put this business together, and everyone that will be using us in the future. All right, Bay, so we have a little bit of feedback from the first show.
Ooh.
So 3 takeaways here from the first show.
Okay.
So
Wait, before you get into that, I got to ask you something. First off, I'm going to say congratulations to you.
Thank you.
That's an amazing feat. But you mentioned about how a story about a home, and I was thinking to myself, like, I'm a big fan of American Pickers, and a lot of reasons they end up buying things to resell is because there's a story to it. Does that kind of relate to homes as well? If there's like a
100%.
good story, yeah,
Same connection, Bay, and it becomes more personable, right? Right?
yeah,
I'm selling a house in Port Richmond, old school neighborhood. It's a 1900s house, and the ladies lived there 42 years.
wow,
And when you walk into the home, you can tell that it's well cared for. Just as soon as you enter the threshold of the home, some of those homes need work because they are older homes, are 100 plus
sure,
years old, but you could tell that they really took pride in their home. So we procured a buyer, was actually an older school real estate agent in the city, and she was representing her brother. And that conveyed to me when they called me, they said, we can tell the home was well cared for. We felt good vibes in the home. In fact, my seller was there today when they were there for their home inspection. And they said, we had a good feeling when we came into the home. We felt love into the home. We felt like the home was well cared for, and you really took pride in your home ownership. And it's not tangible, it's not physical, but it's there, and people can feel it, they can sense it. And again, it's same thing as far as the transaction goes. We have a lot of camaraderie already because of this interaction between the buyer and the seller. The agent's representing her brother. She's a well-versed professional agent. And it goes a long way in the transaction. But that personal connection, and it's fun. Like when you go picking and all, it's fun when there's a story behind something, right?
Sure.
It makes it a little like it's worth a little more. In some instances, it actually is, right?
Absolutely.
So we have there you go. That's one of them. The word I say too much. There it is. We led right into it.
That's on the notes that Dan sent me too. I was cracking up when I read that.
So we say too much. That's me, not we. I should say I say too much. So we're going to stop saying that. And my good friend Jerry Arthur Pellegrino told me that I do not let you talk enough. That I should shut up and Bay should do more talking. So that means one of two things. They don't want to hear what I'm saying. They have more interest in you. I'm not sure there, but they want to hear more from Bay. So we're gonna follow Jerry's lead here.
Oh boy.
And the third point was, which to me tonight it's better. They say Bay has bad lighting last month, I should say, that Bay's lighting was bad.
Huh. And I have my little ring light shining on me.
Should we dime out who said that?
Oh, Frank?
No, my mother.
Oh.
Yes, my mother said Bay's lighting was not good.
I wonder if it's better this time.
Yes.
Mom, tell me, please.
We are going to ask Anna Marie Pizzi if Bay's lighting is improved this week.
I need to see a thumbs up.
Yes, Mom's done a lot for us from the beginning. Old school Italian family. She helps us behind the scenes on the business. Mom had her own beauty salon at like 17 years old in Clifton Heights. So really? Mom's side of the family, the Fasciolas, are entrepreneurs. They like opening their own businesses. They don't like to work for people. Tough, hard-nosed, old school Italians from Clifton Heights.
That's my perfect type of people.
Yes. Yeah. You know where you stand with them.
But is it? I'm going to ask you, but I wish we had your mother on here to get the true answer. Is it gravy or sauce? Week.
What was that?
Is it gravy or sauce?
It's gravy. It's gravy. Only because
my man.
And my mom doesn't cook hers as long as I do. I haven't made mine in a while, and as long as my grandmother did. My mom, because it gets thicker. I like it a little thicker.
Me too.
As you cook it, it gets thicker. Trying to think of which one it was. One of my grandmother's sisters, my Aunt Mary, I think it was. She used to cook the meat in the sauce, which I loved. But my mother, who works for Weight Watchers for 40 years, thinks it was too much fat in the sauce, so she wouldn't cook the because then it made it more fattening if the meat was cooked in the gravy. But I always loved it. When my aunt cooked the meat in the sauce. I
don't think I ever had it that way. We always cooked it separate. And actually, then I was taught, like when I was being taught how to do it, it was the secret. I was told the secret ingredient is you get the grease from the meatballs and the sausage, and you pour it into this.
My mom would tell you it's too fattening. She wouldn't do it. You know what they use in there now? A little bit of shaved carrot to give it some sweetness.
Really?
So if anybody didn't listen to the show before this on Bay's Network, Bay had a gentleman on that was on one of the seasons of Gordon Ramsay's show, Hell's Kitchen show, and it was all about food. So this is a carryover discussion from the last. We're gonna bring. I know he's pulling buttons over there. We're gonna bring my good friend, my childhood friend of 40 years, Mike Kehner, onto the program, and for our wrestling fans out there, which the three of us are, we're going to talk some. Here he is.
Hey,
there he is.
Wrestling.
Hi guys.
There he is. That's my boy Mike Kehner joining us.
Don't put too much onions in the sauce.
No, we don't. We just, my mom always says a small onion at the bottom of the pot and a little bit of garlic, and that's it.
And don't forget the pork for the flavor. The pork, that's the flavor. Sorry, I saw Goodfellas.
There's a Medighan over there.
I was going to say, when Kehner become Italian?
Yeah, all of a sudden we got a Medighan over there. So first, thanks for coming on and doing this.
No problem. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And I love.
Before you say anything, Dan, I got to say this. And I was waiting until Mike came on. I had no idea you guys knew each other since childhood. No idea.
Oh yeah. Oh God, yeah. Danny. Actually, if it wasn't, we'll start right off the bat. Next to Grandizio, Danny probably was my biggest introduction to wrestling. I mean, we went to the arena, Ultra Clash 1. Danny took me. I remember with the Headhunters and Eddie Gilbert and all that. That was my first ECW arena show. I went with Danny, and we would go to the Civic Center, the Spectrum, the whole 9 yards.
Tell them what happened at the end of that first ECW pay-per-view that we were at. You remember at the end? What happened at the end?
The only thing I remember about that one was the fact that they had to blame the athletic commission for the barbed wire. Meanwhile, it was actually not the commission's fault. It was because they were supposed to do a barbed wire bat. The Headhunters versus Miguel Perez and I can't remember who. Oh, Crash the Terminator, of course. And they were supposed to run, get the barbed wire bat, and use it, but they said the commission wouldn't let them use barbed wire. Turns out they just couldn't find any.
when at the very end, when they were going off the air, the transformer blew up.
Oh, the pay-per-view. You're talking about
the pay-per-view.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about Living Dangerously. Yeah.
He remembers it all.
Yeah.
We went to that pay-per-view. I remember where we were. We were in the back on like a bleacher setup, and at the very end, when they were going off the airbag, the power supply, the transformer blew up. They just made it through the pay-per-view.
Yeah, right as they went off the air because they had to rush. It's the whole story they tell at the end of in Beyond the Mat, where they had to call out the finish real quick. They had to get to the finish real quick because they were running out of time, and then the story, you were there. I mean, they were running out of time, and then as they were running out of time, they kind of got up, and then boom, everything blew up.
Well, let's we jumped ahead, as I know we're going to be all over. It's exciting to have Mike on. We're going to go back in the nature of humans over houses here. We're going to go back to the old days. I lived on School Lane in Fallcroft, and Mike lived on Taylor Drive.
Yes, it did.
And we used to frequent the 7-Eleven in Fallcroft. So every month, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, Bill Apter at Pro Wrestling Illustrated came out, and the Wrestler came out, and we used to go up there, and I think it was like $1.50 for the magazines.
Probably.
We would save our money and go up to the 7-Eleven and get our magazines for the month. I remember that. I remember the big gulp cups with the WWE figures on them.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s, and the ice cream bars, that was like we waited. We used to go to 7-Eleven every day to see when they would actually come in stock to get our lousy imprinted WWE ice cream bars.
Yeah, that was us.
And Mike's mom used to watch a lot of the area kids. She was kind of a nanny in the area. God rest her soul. I knew they were very close, and she was the soft-spoken, most gentle, nicest woman you ever want to meet. And we used to wrestle in his front yard. And he had a little front yard area with a fenced-in area. I knew she hated it. She was just waiting for somebody to get hurt out front of the house. But she was such a nice lady. she tried to word it so nicely instead of screaming out of us and say, "Stop! Someone's going to break their neck."
Please don't hurt anybody. Please, guys, take care. Please don't hurt anybody. This is a lady. This is a lady that literally watched me get like knocked on my ass and almost put into a coma when I came home for baseball practice right out front of the house. And now she's watching us in our front yard, pretending it's a steel cage, beating the crap out of each other. My mother went through a lot. God rest her soul, like Daddy said, but she went through a lot with us.
We
really
tortured her. Michael tortured her before David, but we were the original ones that tortured that woman back in the day in Fallcroft. And she should have came out and grabbed us up and said, "Knock it off, you two fools! You're going to kill each other."
Yeah.
But she was just so sweet. You know, Fallcroft was that neighborhood. Everyone that lived there talks about. You know, Mike's dad, correct me if I'm wrong, was at Westinghouse first before he became a mailman?
Correct. He was at Westinghouse until, I don't remember the years now. They all blend together. But, yeah, he was there until they closed up shop down in Essington, Teddygun, whatever you want to call it. Then he did a couple of jobs before, taking the postman test, and became a mailman until he retired the year my mom passed, back in 2010.
You know, it was that neighborhood. My dad worked for SEPTA. People worked for the post office, quartermasters, and it was a working class community. And we respected everybody. We had a terrific boys and girls club.
Yep.
We had some great people. We had a great group of guys that we were friends with coming up over the years. I still sell houses down there, and we were talking about that personal connection and the relationship. It means a lot. I mean, we even argue over the pizza. It was split, right? So if you were from kind of like Delview area over, people went to Fallcroft. And if you were on our side of town, on our side of the village, you went to Lafayette. Where I still go today, and I take guys and all. So it was even. We all had our own little niche over there, being in Fallcroft, and it was. I wouldn't trade it for the world. A lot of people have come out of there and done tremendous things. The Scrub Daddy guy from Fallcroft. A lot of people are high-end professionals, and it was a well-respected working class community back then.
It was a great childhood. I loved the community, the town. It was great. I met so many people I still talk to this day, which is it's unheard of for a lot of different people. But I loved it. Being in that little village area, and just I still drive through every once in a while. My brothers have a house in Norwood, so I go through Fallcroft every once in a while, and just the memories will last a lifetime. They really will.
So tell us, which the story drops off a little bit for me. And Bay, I'll let you jump in here because Jerry's going to yell that I did too much talking. I always thought you were crazy. Like Mike says, I want to get into wrestling. And I should say, no, you're just a fool, man. You're not getting into wrestling. There's no way you're going to be able to break into wrestling business. You have no shot. And our cousin, my cousin, Mike Grandizio, and Mike kind of really, really wanted to get into the wrestling business. Let's go into EC. I got my shirt on. Can you see it, Mike?
I see it. I
got my ECW shirt on there just for you. The old school barbed wire shirt.
Yep.
Tell us how it started, and I'm going to let Bay take over because Bay you see it on the screen, Chubby Dudley, ECW. How did it get started? How did you end up? Because I'll say this real quick, and then I'll turn it over. I used to go to the original shows. I always forget his name, the Jeweler, the original Eastern Championship Wrestling shows at Swanson and Rittner, I think, down there at the old ECW arena. And then, of course, that thing grew into a phenomenon. But Mike, tell us what was the first time that you had an inkling you were going to be involved down there with ECW?
Well, I had been in the business up until that point for about 7 or 8 years. Bay could tell you pretty much all about that, since it was between Bay Ragney and Frank Namoli and them guys that almost pretty much got me involved. Between their company at the time, Liberty All Star Wrestling, and then they introduced me to Dennis Carluzzo, who was a local promoter, probably a mentor to me. And when I met him, I was traveling up and down Jersey. I mean, there were times where every Friday, every Saturday, and sometimes every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we were working all up and down the Jersey Turnpike, the Parkway. And that was probably around 97, between 97 and 99.
Was this
and-
as a referee, Mike? Was this?
Yes,
as a
this was
referee?
as a referee. I never thought I would get. I never thought I would make it as a wrestler. I had fun being a wrestler. I always thought being a wrestler made me a better referee. But I always thought being a referee was my calling and where I was going to go with anything. So yeah, so as a referee, yeah, I was up and down Jersey with them. ECWA in Delaware with Jim Kehner. I did some spots for him, and that's where I met Steve Carino. And Steve Carino and I became like brothers, like one of my best friends, probably between you and Mike. Steve is probably, the best friend I've ever had. He became the best man at my wedding, and so on and so forth. But Steve, during that time period, he had gotten the spot in ECW. And as he went, I decided, hey, let me take a couple rides with him. And so I said, this is, there's a chance here, especially when I went with Steve to Queens. And there's a legendary story that I went with Steve to Queens, New York at the Elks Lodge. And they needed somebody to be a fan in the crowd that could beat up by Sabu and Fonzie. Well, turns out that turned out to be me. And I got the crap kicked out of me by those two. And I got my head busted open by those two. And to this day, every time I see Fonzie, he said, "Don't worry, Daddy, you're going to get your heat back. You're going to get your heat back." And I'm still waiting. So from there, it was I did a couple referee gigs in Johnstown and Rostraver, actually, out west of Pennsylvania. And that's when they told me, "Hey, we're looking for somebody to be on ring crew. We need a ring crew guy." And it was basically just guys looking to get off ring crew. So I would take their place. And so that's what happened. So, yeah, it was Heat Wave. I want to say Heat Wave 99. It was February of 99 that I did the guest spot. And then like that, March, April, where I left a couple shows, on the road. And then Heat Wave in that August is when I started full time on the ring crew and in ECW.
Did you have a relationship with John Finnegan, who was, of course, one of their lead referees prior to that?
The only time I had ever met John, before I met him in ECW, the only time I met him was at a Liberty show. We were at Liberty All-Star Wrestling. We were at a show in Eddystone, at that little building in Eddystone Bay that we ran to. Mm-hmm. And Jim and John came. They were off one night from ECW. They decided to come down. I remember getting in the ring. Me and Duran were reffing. And I remember we were getting in the ring. We would bow to them. It's like our gods. There they are. There they are. We were bowing to them, and they were laughing. Then they told us we sucked, which was funny. But yeah, that was the first time I had met John. And then, and then I met him mainly, when I started with ECW.
Bay, go ahead. I'm going to ask one more question, Bay, about taking a bump. I mean, it's not easy. It's not a joke in there, taking a bump. Did you get more used to it over time? I mean, what was it like at the beginning, taking a bump?
Scary. In fact, I remember again that building in Eddystone. I went up to Bay. I said, "Hey, listen." I said, "I think it was getting Durant on the show." I said, "Hey, can we use Durant?" He goes, "No, we got you, we got whoever else was reffing for us at the time." And I said, "Well, how about if I take a bump?" So we had Harley Lewis give me a big power bomb. That was one of the first big bumps I ever took in my life. Was that night in Eddystone.
That's a hell of an introduction.
It was, right? Does it get easier over time? Absolutely. It's easier when you know it's coming. And there have been so many over the years where it's kind of called on the fly. Probably the most famous one, jumping forward. I'll never forget. We're in the ring. We were coming to save Spike from Rhino, me, Jim, and John. And Rhino was supposed to give us all pushes. Nice and easy. And as we hit the ring, we fed in the Rhino to push us. And Rhino just walked right by us. We're like, where the hell's Rhino going? So we always dropped down to check on Spike. And John or Jim or both said, "Hey, Kehner, get ready." And I'm like, "Ready for what?" And here goes Rhino bringing a table in the ring. I'm like, "Oh, man." And so then I said, "Rhino, what are you doing?" He kicks me in the gut. He gores me through a table. And you can see that.
It's in my notes, actually. I actually
really?
looked
Okay.
down to make sure I was getting the wrestler correct. And it was Rhino.
Yep.
And I actually go back on YouTube and look at that once in a while and see Mike going through the table.
Right. But yeah, no, it gets easier over time. I mean, the older you get, it starts to hurt more because, I mean, God forbid, we're close to or pushing 50 now, and I still take them every once in a while, and it's, it hurts.
The fluidity of being able to move and being in the right spot. Who did you pick some of that stuff up from? Was that self-taught over time, or because you gave me the courtesy and let me do it one time on one of the indies that we had out here in Parksburg? It's not easy at all.
It really isn't. People, it's funny. People always tell me, "Oh, reffing's easy, and then they get in there and be like, "Oh my God, this is hard." It's not the cakewalk everybody thinks it is. There's so much you got to remember, and there's so much, that you got to keep in your head. Especially, I just did a match. It was a young kid by the name of Action Andretti, and he was working Brian Cage from AEW. And the stuff they put together and what they had to memorize. Meanwhile, that I had to kind of memorize to help this young kid remember everything. It's insane, And it's like, my God, and then you have to be in the right spot at the right time, and it's crazy. But after a while, when you've been doing it as long as I have, I mean, I've been doing it almost 30 years. You do get used to it. I still get nervous. It still freaks me out going into the ring. But it's just you do what you do.
Go ahead, Bay.
I got to say, I've like Mike said, I've known Mike. It's about 30 years now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
And I remember when he came on the scene, and we were getting him broken in, and he was like the taxi for everybody. He had the dependable car.
Yeah.
and which was a godsend in itself. But over time, like those early years, Mike really he paid his dues, and he paid his dues inside and out of this business. But then over time, I watched, and I didn't know Mike, like him from his young days. I noticed that he wasn't just somebody who was like, oh, wrestling and ECW is like this hot thing, and I want to be part of the wrestling business. He truly had a love for the wrestling business, and he was always, and I'm sure still to this day, a student of the business and always willing to learn.
Absolutely.
And then take what he was learning, what he's done over the last so many years, becoming a teacher as well and teaching so much great talent. But when he started to do that switch and become the wrestler, because he would always say like, no, it's not. I'm too small. And I don't think I should. And then when he started doing it, and I would watch him work, I was like, man, this dude knows how to work. He can work. And I think Mike's 100% correct too, because once he started to be on that side of the ring now, inside there, then you learned that whole opposite thing, which made him just a better, not only a better referee, but a better wrestler. He had both aspects of it. But on top of it all, the psychology that guy knows for this business is amazing.
Yeah, that's so important that so many people don't know anymore, and thank you, babe. I appreciate the compliment, but you have to know it, because, and if you don't, it's just like, people, still to this day, they'll put stuff together and I'm like, no. And they'll be like, why? I said, because it doesn't make any sense. And it's like, why are we doing what we're doing? And then we do it anyway, because, it is what it is.
You always had that end of it, I think, even from when we were kids, the psychology of the sport per se. There's Bay's cat in the background.
Right. I just because I love the old, I can still sit there and watch, some of my favorite matches, and it's over, and still learn something new from them every day. Like you watch the Kurt Hennig, Nick Bockwinkel Broadway from Vegas. You watch the Barry Windham, Ric Flair trilogy from the Battle of the Belts, and then the Broadway they did on TV, and then the Crockett Cup match they had. I watched 3 matches with those two, and then they're like, oh my God, they did something different like every time. And then of course there's the Flair Steamboat trilogy, or the Brett Bulldog match. It's just, you literally, every time you can watch it, you can pick up something different. You can learn something different. That's what I always try to tell the kids, like, watch these matches. Why? Just watch them. Don't say yay, boo. Watch them and learn.
Who's a student? I'll tell you who's a student right now of that. David Reed.
Yeah. Absolutely.
David watches a ton of old school wrestling,
yep.
and he took heed of that, and he watches a ton of it, and he's really come along and intertwined that. You always had the fist. That's your one of your signature moves. Mm-hmm. You, in my opinion, you had zero agility when we were kids. When I saw him live throw a drop kick for the first time, I thought, where the heck did that come from? So how is that
for you? Wait, Dan, how was that for you? being the fact that you know Mike from when you were kids, and this was this love and passion the two you guys had, and then to see Mike go on into business and become part of ECW. What was that like for you?
I absolutely love it. And when I saw him live on a pay-per-view one time with my wife, and I saw them say referee Mike Kehner, and I paused it and I ran to the screen. I said, "Son of a bitch, it's Mike Kehner. He's on a pay-per-view. The guy used to drop on his head with a brain buster when I thought I was Jimmy Garvin in '88. This guy, you know why? And it ties in everything we talk about. Mm-hmm. He had such a passion for it, and he made it real. He made something of it. You know, he didn't. You know, he didn't have the upbringing. It wasn't bred to be in the wrestling business. No. But he comes so far, and anybody that begrudges him, we know what he's done. We know where he came from because it is a rough business. He's earned his stripes. And I just love him. I just love everything about the fact that he was able to be successful in the business, and he went for his dreams, and he said, I'm going to do this. And you know, and he gives back. So we started this charity wrestling stuff like you had Liberty back in the day, Bay. And he told me, so we're doing some charity spots. Why don't you come down and see some shows? I think the first show I went to was over in Jersey. The autism awareness show. My son has autism, and they did a show over in I think it was Cherry Hill, Mike, at the Flyers Arena over there with that Italian guy.
Yeah.
Kamala was there that time.
Yeah. With Jimmy Cicero, wise guy Jimmy Cicero. Yep.
And you know, and Mike got me involved in it a little bit, and knew how much I loved it, and you know, they let me referee a match up at a show we did up here in Parksburg, and they let me do a spot at the end. I think we had to practice it a million times because it was a disaster. I think my rear end still hurts from trying it. But that means a lot. Like, he didn't have to do that. I mean, he didn't have to. Even you know, I'm trying to think of his name, Kyle.
Kyle Payne.
Yeah, you know. It's I'm forever grateful for those guys accepting me and let me do that, let me be involved in that spot. They don't have to do it. You know, I'm not an inside wrestling guy. You know, it means a lot to me, and that's who Mike is. You know, and again, it ties in. I wanted to have him on because his story is so incredible about how far he's come. And let's talk about real quick when WWE bought the ECW brand, kind of skipping forward, and you got to do the pay-per-view at the old ECW arena.
Well, the first pay-per-view, the one night, if you're talking about one night stand, that was actually in New York.
New York, correct.
Yeah, that was at
what was the one you did in that was a maybe it wasn't a pay-per-view, maybe it was just a house show. Yeah,
it was a house show that we did at the ECW arena under the WWE banner, which was funny. You know, it was so. Here we are with the same cast of characters that would be there, whatever it was, you know, several years, 8-9 years earlier. But then backstage, it's all the agents and the formality of the WWE environment running the show. And we're like, it was so surreal. You know, we're running an ECW show, but we're running it with WWE personnel running the show. And it was wild. I remember reffing C.W. Anderson and I think Sabu that night. Can't remember the other matches I did, but it was just that was just a house show that we did because we did there, and we had done TV at the Wells Fargo at the time. It might have been Core States. Who knows what the hell the name of the stadium was at that time? But that was, I remember, July 4th weekend. We did it there. But the pay-per-views we did the first one night stand. And the second one, as a matter of fact, up in New York at the the Manhattan Center,
right?
And they were I'll tell you, they were great. And it was after the second one that we said, oh my God, you know, they're bringing this back, and we're going back, and the hope was there. That was probably the last time I thought, you know what, I got a shot. You know, because I always consider myself successful from the standpoint that I did stuff. I did more than I ever dreamed I'd ever do. Being lucky enough to go to Japan, China, all over the country with ECW and other companies. But I never got that WWE paycheck, that money that could help you better support your family. And that was the one time I'm like, this is a real shot. And in fact, it's funny, I remember the night of the second pay-per-view when Finnegan took the big bump from Cena, and it was like, oh yeah, John, if John didn't have such a great job, John would have been there because he had gotten offered a spot after that big bump. But it was after that, then we did a bunch of TV, Trenton, Albany, West Virginia, and so forth. And it was just like, that couple months was, God, so memorable. And then it just turned into, where I remember I was in West Virginia, and Dean Malenko came up to us and told us, it's like, hey, we're switching. We're not going to do the ECW matches anymore. We're going to have just regular wrestling matches, WWE style. And, every once in a while we'll do, an extreme type match. That night I knew, I said, all right, we're all done. That was it. And it was soon enough. We were all done after that. Because it was just going to be, a WWE product and a WWE environment. So it was like, all right, we're done. So, but it's still a great time and all great memories. Absolutely.
Now, Mike, I've never asked you this question. And this goes to, we'll say the common term of fan, but truly in the business, Mark. Have you ever met Vince McMahon? And what was that experience like?
I met Vince a few times. In fact, you actually, if you remember it, you might know the story. I met him with Don Bucci, Donnie B, who was a manager and booker and jack of all trades in Jersey. Psychotron Lupus, Kent Porter, Madonna Wayne Gacy, Twiggy Ramirez, a whole slew of. I think Bobcat was there. We did a guest spot, extras, whatever you want to call it. We did extra work for the WWE. Dennis Carluzzo got us in there. And the part we did was, if anybody remembers, the night Mark Henry had his date with China.
Yes.
Well, we were all guests in the crowd and bar patrons. In fact, Twiggy Ramirez, and I think Inferno Kid was there too. But Twiggy was one of the ones who got the crap kicked out of him by Mark. He got thrown into the bar and what have you. So it was the event was held. The taping of it was held the day before in Baltimore at Tim White's bar. Tim White was the old WWF referee at the time, Andre's chauffeur, what have you. So he had a bar in Baltimore, and they shot a lot of vignettes there. So they shot it there. So we went there. We got there early. We ate. We filmed the vignette, and Vince was there. Stephanie was there. Hunter was there. They were all there. Of course, China, Mark Henry, the whole family. And they're like, hey, guys, come eat with us. Meanwhile, we had eaten all day. We were stuffed. But we had to go eat. It was the McMahon family inviting us to dinner. So, we had dinner with them. We ate again, and it was a great time. It was intimidating. I mean, here we are.
Sure.
Here we are. And Shane was there, too. We're there with literally the first family of wrestling. We're all just like, I can't believe this is happening. We're having dinner with the McMahon family. This is the greatest night of my life. And he was a great guy. They were all great guys. They, picked up the check, the whole 9 yards. And the kicker of it was, and Cornette was there too. And I had done a lot of work with Jim, as you know, working with Dennis. Cornette took us aside and we're like, hey, Jim, how do we, because you get paid a certain amount of money for doing the extra work. And hey, Jim, how do we get paid? He goes, oh, well, we don't bring money to these things. Said, but listen, come to the arena tomorrow and you'll get paid. We'll pay you then. And he goes, since you're coming to the arena, we don't have a spot for you, but you're coming to the arena, so you'll get paid for that too. So meanwhile, we got paid for 2 nights. We got food out the wazoo, both the night at the bar and at catering, and we got paid for 2 nights. We made like $500 for nothing. It was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but no, I met him there, and then I had worked with him. There was other extra spots that we did. Mm-hmm. We were always bodyguards for Stephanie when the Undertaker was trying to kidnap her. We held the sparklers for Gilbert as he was coming out. We did those. We did a couple times, and the biggest one I ever did next to that bar scene was me and Fred Rubenstein. If you go back and watch WrestleMania 15. The one that was at the Wells Fargo Spectrum, whatever. We were there, and me and Fred Rubenstein, we arrested the Big Show. And it was we were dressed as cops. We arrested Big Show, and it was great because he's like, all right, Bob. He's calling Big Show's like just Barry and Fred. All right, Bob Newhart. And we got him into we're trying to shove him into this little car that they gave us. And it was it was hysterical. But yeah, that was probably the biggest one. That was my WrestleMania moment. I arrested the Big Show.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What would you say is the number one favorite match that you refereed of all time?
The night Steve Corino won the world title.
Wow.
Definitely the night we were in Chicago. It was November to Remember. It was the first ever Double Jeopardy match where it was two matches at the same time. I was reffing. Oh God, now I have to remember. I was reffing
senior moment.
Yeah, I'm trying to. It was just incredible. It was Corino. It was Jerry Lynn. It was the Sandman. And I'm trying to remember what the first two matches was. So it was some combination of Steve and Jerry and PJ and Just Incredible Sandman. I think it was Steve and Sandman and Justin and Jerry. But either way, Finnegan and I were in the match. We were reffing it. And that alone was, oh my God, I'm reffing the main event. Malo said, no, it's yours. You're reffing the main. And I'm like, oh my God. And Finnegan takes me aside, and for 20 plus years, 25 years, almost 25 years, I'll never not say to John, thank you. And I say this to him all the time. But John takes me aside before we went through the curtain. He goes, after we do the first finish, I'm leaving. You're reffing the match. I know what it means to you. Because it was the night Steve was winning, and obviously we knew.
Wow.
So, and I was crying before we went through the curtain. But it's like, all right, awesome. And I'm just like, I'm in shock. And Steve's like, let's go do this. And so we went out, we did the match. We did the first count, and it was simultaneous. We practiced that all day. We had to get our timing right because it was Old School Explosion on one and Tombstone, That's Incredible on the other. 1, 2, 3. John slides out. Everybody else stays at ringside because they have stuff to do. Bada bing, bada boom, bada bam. We have the match. And I tell this story all the time, and it's funny. We get to the end, and Jack Victory has to yell in, you got to turn Dawn Marie, because we had to have a spot where Dawn Marie turns heel, because Dawn Marie was managing Steve at the time. So we turn Dawn Marie heel. We get to that. She gives Steve the low blow. She gives Jack Victory the low blow. So then we don't realize this. Steve looks at me. I look at Just Incredible. They look at each other and like, we don't have a finish. I have no idea what the finish is. They have no idea. We're like, we don't got a finish. So Steve yells to me. He's like, Kehner, tell him to keep hitting me until I think of something. And meanwhile, he's not hitting him with punches. He's hitting him with cane shots to the head. So he hits Steve with one cane shot. Tell him to keep it coming. He hits him with another cane shot. Ducking. So he ducks the cane shot. Steve hits the super kick. I come in. I'm like, this better be it. 1, 2, 3. And that was it. And that's how Steve won the world title.
Wow.
And it was the greatest night of my life. And I'll never forget when we got to the back and Steve hugged me and I hugged him and he said, we did it. And for him to say that to me, it meant so much. I remember when Steen and Generico or, Sami Zayn, when Steen won the world title, they hugged and almost did something similar in the back. It brought back memories of that night when Steve won the world title. It meant so much to me and so much to him. It was a great night. And that's truly the most memorable. Next to Benoit Guerrero and some of the big names and some of the big stars that I've worked with over the years, that match alone is one that I will treasure for the rest of my life.
That's amazing.
Of course, I know we went over on time. We're trying
Sorry.
No, listen, we're going to have, I could go on and on. I mean, honestly, I could go on and
Bring it home, Mike, bring it home. And I know people that like us that love wrestling probably want to hear more. Will you come back in one of the coming months? We're going to do this monthly. In a couple months, we'll have you back.
Sure.
Maybe talk about our independent circuit, some of the stuff you're doing for charity, some of the things you're doing now as training young wrestlers and stuff like that. And see, I said, Jerry's not going to like that. But if you can come back and we'll further the conversation. Me and Bay are going to wrap up a few things. Listen, I love you. I thank you for coming on. It means
love you
a lot
too, guys.
to me.
Love you, Mike.
It really does. And it's awesome, all the success you've had. And looking forward to working with you as I'm lucky enough to do a little ring announcing thanks to Mike on some of these independent shows. So we will bring you back on. Hopefully to see at the new LAW stuff that hopefully once COVID's over, we put back together.
Sounds great, guys. You all have a great night. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Take care, Mike. Great seeing your face, man.
You got it, guys. Take care.
Right.
Bye.
Thanks, buddy.
Bye. That's awesome, man. I
I
love
love
hearing
that
them
guy.
stories. Yeah, he's a great guy.
I'll tell you one quick. I know we're going to wrap up. He calls me one night on like a Tuesday. Who was the old ECW ring announcer? His name's out of my head with the company.
Bob Ortiz?
Yes, Bob. He says, Bob can't do Breaker's show down at Goretti, which was like 1,000-person show down. It was a big independent show. He said, can you, and I just had started with the ring announcing. He said, can you be the ring announcer for that night? So I had no idea what I was getting into. So, but here's how he thinks here. You know what I mean? He's trying to give me a pop and let me go down there and do the ring announcing. But I got to do 2 of those shows. I sat next to the Blue Meanie in the locker room on one of the shows. They didn't explain anything to you, and they left me hung out to dry. So somebody came in the ring hot, and I got hammered from behind. And the old ECW, he had the bald head. He was the security guard. He was my security guard that night. So the guys come in hot into the ring. Nobody tells me. I don't know. Like, I don't know all the lingo and stuff. So I just remember getting run into it like full speed. The microphone's behind my rear end. I have to roll out of the ring. I kind of rolled out, and Steve was my security guard. I splatted face down on the floor. I'm hoping I didn't break the microphone. And he picks me up off the floor, and he pulls me back to my chair. And I remember having to take care of the belts that night at ringside. And there was people trying to like steal the belts from underneath the ring, underneath and I'm holding on to the belt, and the kid's trying to pull the belt underneath the thing. And then Deanna Marie was on the card, who made a little bit of appearance in WWE as a women's wrestler. And she comes in the ring and she said, "Where's the hot mic?" I'm thinking, I don't know where the heck the hot mic is. I'm just hoping not to mess up and get out of here. He's done so many little things to help people because that's who he is, and it's he doesn't have to do any of that stuff. I mean, he let me do that stunner up there at the church. That's a childhood dream for me. I got the grapevine to leg and get the pin. I mean, it was awesome. That was all because of him, and we appreciate him. And, that's what the old school friendship's about, right? That's what we're talking about. That's who I am. That's who Mike is. Is my Jerry. I wanted to hit a couple things, Bay. I want to get us out of here. We always run over, but regarding real estate 2022, a couple things I'm seeing out of the gate here.
Okay.
I just heard a bunch of stuff on interest rates. I don't think we see a major interest rate hike this year. You never know. We are about 3.25 right now. They're saying it might go up maybe a quarter to a half a point. I do not think it's going to hinder real estate sales. Coming out is another Jerry. Coming out of the gate this year, the sales are up as far as dollar per ticket. I used to work at Radio Shack. I've always talked about dollar per ticket. So it seems like the asking prices are even higher coming into January here, if that could possibly be true. But it does seem like they're not going down. It does seem like the consumer's a little more discerning. I was talking to my agent, Evelyn Holtzmuller, today about that, where some stuff is sitting. If the consumer feels like it's overpriced, or if the consumer has a concern on a property's location or something like that, it's not flying off like it was. So we will monitor that. Couple of things too, if you're looking to buy or sell and you're looking for some professional vendors, Ernie Hermer. That's Ernie Homer at Homer Inspection Services in Downingtown. And my preferred mortgage lender in-house is Bo DeForge with Loan Depot. Both excellent professional partners for us. And if you need a home inspector or a loan officer, Bo and or Ernie can help you. We're going to talk a little bit, Bay, and get out of here quickly.
We have an interesting real estate question that I want to put up there on the screen, and I'm dying to hear the answer to this. What do you think of tiny homes as an investment?
I think it's getting bigger and bigger. I think you're going to see tiny home communities. I think the younger crowd, the millennials, have an interest in the tiny homes. From a business perspective, from the financial side of things, how cost effective can they be? Because they're going to replace park model trailers per se and stuff like that. So being a little bit more, I'm not trying to be crude, but a little more maybe highbrow in certain instances of as far as the amenities and stuff that are in these tiny homes. So I really think that they are going to start booming, and in strategic locations like Florida and some other spots. You're going to see more and more communities of them where people are buying up land, and I've seen it in Tennessee, but I've seen it in other areas where they're doing tiny home communities. You couldn't do it in the city of Philadelphia, right? It's just not the demographic, the land, the topography, stuff like that maybe isn't a setup for it. But I do think you're going to be seeing maybe over the next 10 years, it's going to be more of a prevalent name, and it's going to be definitely have a percentage of the marketplace. I do. That's all personal opinion, but we do read a lot of articles, and if you look at them, they're so efficient. They're so nice, especially for vacation homes. There's one in Las Vegas downtown. One of my bloggers that I watch, they stayed at one of the hotels, has a tiny home, and you can rent it. It's really neat. I mean, it's really a neat. And if you're short like me, it's good. I think if you're tall, you might be a little bit more limited. But if you're not that tall, they really have a lot of amenities in a small space. I love the concept. I think it's great.
It's funny. Like a few years ago when I first started hearing about them, I thought it was like a joke, and now it's like this whole, like you said, it's like a movement going on.
Absolutely, and the younger people love them because they don't want the maintenance. So they want to enjoy themselves. They want to do different things. They don't want to be cutting 3 acres of lawn. We are seeing in places like Malvern, not to target one area, but like some of the larger homes, people don't want them. They don't want to pay $700,000 to $800,000 and have 2 acres and have all that upkeep. The younger people are not interested. Even the younger ultra professionals, they're not interested. They're just not interested in the upkeep and the maintenance of the bigger houses.
I don't blame them.
All right. I don't know if you saw it. I stayed up. I don't usually stay up. I took a nap, and I thought for some reason that last game of the season in the 17th week this year, it was Monday Night Football, I think it was, the Chargers and the Raiders, and we're old enough to know they had some awesome battles over the years. I was a huge Dan Fouts a guy, me and my friend Fred Bono as a kid, and Kellen Winslow, and the Chargers.
Charlie Joyner.
Yeah, they could sling it, and the Raiders could beat you up, in the trenches. And those games were historic. I'm an energy guy, and I love competition. You know that. I love it. I stood in front of the TV for an hour at the end of that game. My dog was looking at me like, you're crazy. I stood. I was so involved in that game, the back and forth. The Raiders are up 15. The Chargers scored 2 touchdowns plus a 2-point conversion at the end. And I don't know if anybody saw it. I don't know if you watched it, but
I didn't.
Oh my gosh! So the Chargers, they go to overtime. It's a miraculous. The Chargers tie it, and the caveat to this game was, if the Chargers and the Raiders tie, both teams are in. They're both in the playoffs. When does that happen? Because Pittsburgh had a tie, right? So they kept showing 2 Pittsburgh fans in the crowd in Las Vegas, and because they wanted somebody to win so their team would be in the playoffs.
Right.
So it goes to overtime. The Raiders get a field goal. The Chargers get a field goal. The Raiders get the ball back. They're driving the field. The Raiders are probably just past midfield. They have a running play, picks up about 4 or 5 yards. The Chargers, and in my mind, and I'm thinking like I'm always a coach, like I coach basketball, I'm always thinking like I'm the coach. I can think, okay, the Raiders just need to hold on to the ball, run the clock out, they go to the playoffs. Who cares? It's a tie. Both teams go to playoffs. Brandon Staley's a young, analytically minded head coach of the Chargers. He calls a timeout. So nobody could believe it. The announcers, Al Michaels was like lost for words, just saying, why is this guy calling a timeout?
So who had the ball? The Raiders had the ball?
Raiders had the ball. Raiders are driving, right? So it was about, I'm thinking it was like 48 seconds, something like that left. The Raiders are not in field goal range yet. So the Raiders were driving, and I think it was maybe second down, maybe. Somebody's probably going to correct me, but they weren't in a position to kick a field goal. They still needed more yards to get a first down and really potentially take this clock down to 0. But basically, they could have, if they took the ball on fourth down and let the clock run down, it's a tie. The Raiders and Chargers tie, and both teams go to the playoffs. So Brandon Staley calls a timeout. And then after the game, when they talked to the Raiders said they kind of got ticked off because they thought he was trying to preserve time so the Chargers could get the ball back and potentially win. Right. He calls a timeout. The Raiders end up getting a first down, kicking field goal, winning the game. So sometime, and here's the caveat to that. After they come out of the timeout, they only had 10 guys on the field at Chargers. They couldn't even field with 11 guys. So they asked the coach after the game. They say to him, he explains he wanted to get his best 11 run defenders on the field. Well, yeah, you called the timeout when you were going to end up in a tie, and then you only put 10 guys on the field. It was one of these classic Raider Chargers ending. It was like, wow. I was texting guys. This is with Facebook. It's awesome. So guys from my high school, different guys.
Right.
Want a little bit of a chat talk. It's like 11:30. We're all 50, pushing 50. Everyone wants to be in bed, but we all stayed up to watch this great ending to this game, and we really enjoyed it. So let's touch real quick. Eagles, who's going to win this game, Bag?
You know what? I don't know, but for some crazy, scary reason, I think the Eagles. I really do.
What's the key? What do you think the key is to them winning the game?
Run. They got to just run the ball, and Sirianni's just got to not get off track of running the ball.
What about I think, of course, it's a. My wife says I'm Captain Obvious, but defensive pressure on the defensive line on Brady, and if the linebackers could hold up, so I think it's the defensive line and the linebackers, and like you said, just continue to run the football. Nobody stopped them.
Yeah.
Nobody.
It's good. It's gonna be a good game, a fun game. I don't think it's gonna be a blowout. If the Eagles end up tanking, I don't think the Bucs are gonna blow them out. But I think the Eagles can somehow, some way, win this game. Do I think the Eagles are gonna go to the Super Bowl? Absolutely not.
No.
But I think they could get past this week.
So I'll be watching it from Las Vegas.
Look at you, living the life.
10 a.m. on Sunday morning. So it's a 1:00 game. So we got to be up and find a spot at 10 o'clock. Well, that's a good thing. When those 1:00 games start at 10 in Vegas, it's great. You're done by 8 after the night game. It's awesome. So we'll have an update on our next podcast. Hopefully,
Absolutely.
Eagles win one round at least. And I know we didn't do too much talking on real estate, but that's the way it is. We want to just kind of introduce some of the people we're intertwined with, kind of people that we have grown up with and been involved with. And I love that aspect of it, the people aspect of things. That's why I'm in the real estate business.
Let's tie one last real estate question in with that whole thing.
Yeah.
Where do you think is the best area now to get that feel of when we grew up, like with Fullcross?
I think the kids have changed. I think, see all this? I pay for all this stuff for my kid. This is the Affinity Studios here, my son's studio setup. It's changed so much. And I cover from Lancaster to Philly. So I'm in a lot of areas. I think some of the communities that are still, we were very compressed. So I lived on School Lane. They were twins, but the village was row homes, and there was thousands of homes back there.
Yeah.
So we were very close together and intertwined. Mm-hmm. You still have it. I'll tell you why I get a little bit of sense of feel for it still to this day is Briarcliff. And you did we did a lot of stuff. We did wrestling shows in Briarcliff. Yeah. But that's a lower middle class, family-oriented community that reminds me of what Fallcroft was back in the day. I say low middle people, it's a working class, working class people, not doctors, lawyers, Indian chief stuff, working class community. It's a family-oriented type environment. I see it there. I see it in Folsom still. In Delaware County. Delaware County still has a lot of feel for that stuff. The homes are closer together. So I do see it in there. And I do some business up in the Northeast. and there's a lot of ethnic communities up there. I'm working with a guy now that's from Afghanistan, and they have a whole sense of family and community, and they like to live in pockets where there's like-minded ethnic, almost like back in the day. I enjoy that. I love learning about the people and the backgrounds. I'm seeing a lot of it up there as well. I think it'll come back. I do. I do too. I do think it'll, I think it'll come back. I think the people, like I have my friend Renee, who's a big marketing and advertising executive in New York, still talks about Fallcroft to this day. How much we love being a part of the community and how much it taught us those core values, and that's what we have as a company, right? And that's what we pride ourselves on. Those core values that are within you that you never give up. Thank you for doing this on a monthly basis with me.
Absolutely, I love it.
We're over time here as usual. We're going to cut this, guys, to like 40 minutes, but we talk too much. We just enjoy getting on here and talking like we're in the living room.
I didn't say a word. It was all you.
I know. Jerry's going to say, I'm going to hear it. You talk too much, but we'll get better at this thing as we go along. And we're here just to bring a sense of who we are to the community and what my business is about, what my agents are about. NextHomeBrandywine.com for an agent. I have a great diverse group of people, like-minded people. So, Bay, I'll update you from Las Vegas, and looking forward to the show next month.
Absolutely. Can't wait, Dan. Thanks so much for all this, and NextHomeBrandywine.com.
Thanks, Bay. Take care.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.